Good day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar and taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about today's topic, why you should also factor SD-WAN into your BCP now in time for a return to a new normal. My name is May, and I am the producer for today's live webinar segment. Joining me for this session, we have Simon and Steve. Now, before we go into the presentation, let me quickly mention a few housekeeping details. We will have a Q&A session towards the end of today's event, and you are welcome to submit your questions anytime during the presentation. Just look for the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel, type in your question, and submit it. We will answer as many questions as we have time for during the Q&A session. Also, we are recording this event, and you will receive an email tomorrow with a link to view the recording. Lastly, you will see a survey form once you exit today's webinar. We would appreciate if you could fill that out and provide us with your feedback. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Simon to kick off the presentation. Simon, let's begin.
Thank you very much, May, and welcome everyone to this webinar this afternoon. It's going to take you through a number of different elements around why you should factor SD-WAN into your business continuity planning now for return to the new normal. Just a quick webinar agenda. By way of introduction and extension, my name is Simon Morris. I'm the networking and security specialist focusing on SD-WAN at Citrix. Joining me today is Steve Molloy, who is our lead networking systems engineer. We've covered off things such as housekeeping. What we'll do is we'll then move into the presentation. We'll do a little bit of Q&A and close the next steps. Just before we start, in terms of the presentation, I just want to run a quick poll, which will be presented on your screen in a second, and that'll just run for a minute or two as we collate answers. Once we have some answers, we will move forward with the presentation. So please take a look at the question that shows up. Have a bit of think about the question, and yeah, please do answer accordingly. I'll just give you everyone a quick minute to do that, and I'll move forward to the next slide. What I probably should also have mentioned at the time is I hope everyone is keeping safe and well within lockdown, and everyone's sanity is prevailing, and you are managing to at least get out and get some sunshine from time to time. However, if you are like me and you're in Melbourne, there's no sunshine here, so maybe try to find something else to do if you're located in Melbourne.
Some interesting results there, Simon. I think I would have expected everybody to sort of be in that those middle answers from 2 to 4. Yeah, I think what we're trying to address here is those 3 key points, but obviously we would like to sway people who have voted yes that they've stopped all considerations for now, but even those that even are considering SD-WAN.
Yeah, very, very interesting, as you said, Steve. But to be honest, not surprising given the state of play and where everything's at the moment. So thank you everyone for answering that poll, and we'll move forward. I just want to start off the session today with a couple of observations, particularly around business continuity planning. And I don't know how many of you are on Twitter or some of the social media, but there's been a couple of interesting jokes getting around on the social platforms, in particular what led to digital transformation of your company. And you know, there's a couple of answers listed there: CEO, CTO, CIO, and then COVID-19, which I thought was very funny because you know, we have been seeing rapid transformation of late, and I suppose sort of point out the particulars around that. I came across the comment down the bottom of the screen, which I forget who it was attributed to, unfortunately, but yeah, they stated that COVID-19 has managed to deliver remote working and BCP projects in a matter of weeks, if not days, when normally they take months and years to deliver, and that person's absolutely spot on. In terms of where we've landed now, COVID-19 has presented a very unique situation to us, in particular around how work's undertaken, and realistically, what we're hearing from, I suppose, general commentary and those who are well invested in the marketplace and working environments is that it really is, a whole new world. We're seeing economic decline, economic change that's forcing businesses to adapt faster. That's actually driving new ways of transacting and operating. And in turn, that's shaping a different future when it comes to business, or social and business isolation is shaping a different future. We're seeing a lot of that with respect to organisations that can't trade, such as hospitality industry having to shut down entirely, and then other industries, absolutely getting a shot in the arm in terms of additional revenue. When I made the commentary this morning around Coles and their 13% jump in revenue performance for this quarter, and I said it was probably off the back of all the toilet paper purchases. Ultimately, however, the future of work will be changed forever. And in terms of business continuity planning from a business perspective, I just want to take you through, what we're seeing. Right, obviously, remote working. We're seeing a lot of remote work now. Just employees are being told where possible to work from home, and that's geared towards minimising the risk to staff, customers, other parties. And obviously, that's businesses have put in place work from home where possible. As part of doing that, with respect to the branch, and when we talk about SD-WAN branch, we're starting to see a lot of cost reduction. Businesses are winding down costs in their branch locations. Obviously, they're going to see natural cost reductions with respect to lower energy costs and things with people not being there. But there's also potential wind downs of carriage services, WAN bandwidths, and that sort of thing. We're seeing an online shift. Two factors, I suppose, with respect to online shift. So a lot of businesses adapting to doing more online transactions, but more important than that, fast tracking adoption of cloud services to meet the growing demands of remote working requirements. And one of the key ones I want to touch on also though was a trade-off, because of the rapid requirement to drive business continuity and have people working successfully from remote locations. Traditional processes, programs, policy and governance, as well as security, are being traded off for greater flexibility. So that should, I suppose, flag a couple of interesting points for those of you in the security industry, with respect to how you manage those sorts of things, and more importantly than that, how do you manage particularly security trade-offs when people start working back in a normal manner. And one thing we hear a lot about now is around the predictions of a new normal. Right, you can listen to the market and you hear a lot of different things. However, I always like to look at the fringe ends, right? And if you listen to anyone in a little bit of a commentary perspective, it's all work from home, no pants, virtual desktops, any devices from anywhere, and anyhow, it's just going to be that much of a shift because of this, that the requirements of branch are going to be significantly lower. And ultimately, we're seeing things like the reduction in the commute to work. I personally don't take the train; I take my F1 Red Bull racer into the office. We'll see social decline, standing around the what's called the water tank, the water dispenser, having general conversations, and overall cost reduction, stationary, branch offices, lighting, energy, all that sort of stuff being decreased. That's sort of the fringe end of the new normal. And I wanted to challenge the perception of the new normal. I think it's absolutely critical because there are going to be challenges to the new normal. You'll see to the right-hand side, a couple of things I've focused on with a couple of discussions recently have been around property ownership, right? Organisations aren't just going to ditch their branches and shut down branches purely because more and more people are starting to work from home. There's the potential that they're tied into long-term leases, and high investment in both of those elements, and ultimately failing to get the recognised returns. You're also seeing environments where it's impossible to take on this new level of normal. Retail, hospitality are absolutely in-premise, customer service platforms, even though a lot of them have adapted to do, takeaway meals and online service. But people still are going to want to go out. They're going to want to leave their homes, particularly after this the events of this the last couple of weeks. So they have a dependency on physical premises, and then, as I said, social expectations. So people are going to want to get out. They're going to want to go to their friends, go out with their friends, take celebrate birthdays, all that sort of thing. And then there's, I suppose, more of the social elements around, collaboration, the potential for unfinished projects in the branch to still remain. Then there's the elements that I think we don't quite like to talk about, right? Still, there's a lot of traditional mentality. You must pick up your laptop and come into the office every day. I need to be able to see you at your desk working. There's still a lot of that mentality around as well. But the reality is COVID-19 has rapidly shifted how we view work. However, there's still a significant dependency on the branch. And what I like to call the new normal reality is geared towards complete flexibility. Before, where branch was majority of the circle before, you start to see less of that, and then maybe more of the home starting to take off, as well as mobile and the work from customer environments. Branch is still going to play an incredibly critical role in the new normal reality. What I think we'll find from time to time is that these elements and the percentages of which are being the percentage of which are being operated within will vary, right? So some weeks, you might find yourselves heavily in the branch. If you've got large projects, a lot of collaboration things, then as more businesses have become accepting of work from home now, given the situation they've been forced into, home might increase another week, mobile, just to get out of the house and work from a cafe or into customer environments. They're all just going to vary and flex. I think that's in reality what the new normal is going to be. So the branch is very much still going to play a critical role. Yeah. And from the branch perspective, basically what we're seeing right now is that we're faced with a tsunami. And what I mean by this is that the water is out. People have exited the branches. They are working from home. They are working in remote locations. But as we're seeing now, that the curve is flattening. Certain states and the federal government are talking about, relaxing some of the rules around social distancing and things like that. And at some stage soon, the water will be back in. And what I mean by back in, people will be returning to the office, and they will be looking for the office, to be adaptable to their new sense of how they work. And now's the time to make sure that the office is ready for a new level of perception from these guys. That little guy down the bottom, surfing that big wave, that's business, right? Right now, business is surfing this massive wave, this tsunami, and good news for that guy is he's probably going to come out the other side, and his employees are going to be more productive, and do things to a whole new level in this the new world, the new normal I just touched on. So, based on where employees are coming from now and their expectations around work, what are some of the new expectations? First and foremost, from my perspective, I see performance as one of the key elements. In branch offices where they traditionally might have had say some congestion issues from time to time, and some slowness and performance, working from home has probably given them a little bit more bandwidth. Even if their kids are smashing the network with YouTube and other applications and high bandwidth video applications, so employees are quickly able to transition to stay using their 4G service to get the bandwidth they need, so they can adapt quickly, and performance should be no longer, well, probably one of the lower issues. And I should also touch on here that as organisations have moved a lot of workloads to the cloud, and bringing them effectively closer to the remote workers, increased application performance is one of the new norms. I touched on something you said before, resiliency. Customers are going to see network resiliency. Today, they have it in a remote working environment, either whether it's automated or manual. NBN boxes, depending on your RSP will do 4G backup automatically if there's a problem with the NBN, or as I said before, there's a manual issue. So if manual opportunities. So if the remote workers' kids are consuming mass amounts of YouTube and other video content, they can get a 4G dongle, tether themselves to their iPhone or other mobile device, or have some sort of wireless gateway. They've got network resiliency effectively by default. Okay. Flexibility obviously plays a critical part here as well. As an extension of network resiliency, flexibility in access platforms drives desired work behaviours. So, someone could be sitting in their office right now, working connected to the Wi-Fi network, and then they might look out the window. Again, if it's not Melbourne and there's somewhere sunnier, they might decide that they want to go and work out in the garden. The Wi-Fi doesn't particularly reach, so again they latch on to a 4G or a mobile service. And reaching back to an earlier point around security, as I said, there's a lot of trade-off in terms of rapidly accelerating remote work. There are elements and aspects where security has been traded off. So, whilst there may be other underlying security elements that have been brought in to secure those remote working employees, there probably hasn't been as much, and so there's probably an expectation that that security from employees' experience is that it's just inherent and built in, and that they don't see it. So when they come in and return to the branch, they're going to want to see or be able to work in the same manner without same levels of security challenges they may have faced beforehand. So having a seamless security layer is going to be absolutely critical moving forward. Just going to take another quick poll just before we move on. I'll just ask if you can launch a quick poll. We will wait another minute or so as everyone jumps onto that poll and answers the questions. And then, Steve, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just ask if you could touch on that as soon as the answers come up. Mine was a little bit delayed coming through before, and I think it just might have been as the presentation was still on the screen.
Yep, no worries.
So cool. So if you have quick polls, if you have an SD-WAN strategy that you are actively pursuing, what is your projected time frame? Hope everyone's managing to, especially those with kids, are managing to balance the homeschooling and the work. I know it's been an interesting time for myself and my young kids. So I hope everyone's managing to do the same.
Okay, Simon, we'll close it here.
Right.
So yeah, some interesting results there again, Simon. I guess you'd expect most projects to be between 6 and 12 months. Be interesting to see if that is still the case for companies that are rolling that out now. But I dare say those that are doing 24 plus months, that might be taking into account the current situation.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting. It's good to see the I suppose the 0 to 6 months getting a high rating as well. Obviously, with a lot of focus on BCP. A lot of focus on BCP at the moment. There's the potential for that to be quite low, or the timeframes to blow out. So it's good to see that, and even the 6 to 12 months, I think, is good to see as well. I think people really appreciate the value that the network brings, and goes to my point around making sure that the branch is ready for when the wave of people do come back from this new world of working. So moving forward. The reality is this situation is the perfect, provides a perfect presentation of new opportunities. Right? What I mean by that is, for businesses in particular, this represents an opportunity to undertake a lot of business, a lot of work, that requires business network outages, right? With a lot of branches with no staff, there's a great opportunity to send network techs on site, to do device swaps for things when changing out to SD-WAN. And all in all, I don't think we're going to see, hopefully we don't see any time in the near future, an event like this where there's going to be the opportunity to really undertake a lot of work that's so reliant on network outage. Social distancing presents a challenge as well, right? And looking at the Citrix SD-WAN platform and our zero-touch deployment configuration, coupled with the opportunity for network outage, there's the opportunity really for organisations to start leveraging those capabilities to quickly get someone into a branch location, swap out an old router, deploy a new SD-WAN box, and then have a central orchestrator and a central administrator operate a zero-touch deployment config and deploy the branch in the way that they want to, complete with all the policy and security capabilities that they require, based on some of the things I was talking about earlier. With respect to the point around migration ease, below, you heard me talk earlier around a lot of organisations moving quickly to the cloud so they can bring workloads closer to their remote workers. I remember having one conversation not so long ago with a customer who was sort of saying, okay, we've managed to bring a lot of workloads into the cloud much faster than we would have. How are we going to bring them back when their staff come back into the branch office? And I think, well, is that really necessary? Most customers are already going through a cloud transformation journey. Why not reuse those cloud platforms that were spun up and move forward some projects and advance some of those projects and leverage capabilities like the Citrix SD-WAN Cloud Direct Gateway to optimize performance to PaaS, SaaS, and IaaS platforms. And also, it presents a great opportunity to augment the network, right? So in the traditional model of WANs, most locations had a single carriage service. Now's a great opportunity to bring in internet, bring some additional 4G LTE to the network, and then utilize the SD-WAN platform to bring it all together, aggregate bandwidth, policy route applications, and basically provide a better level of service when it comes to network access. So they're the four new opportunities I see that the COVID-19 situation has presented, and I think it's a great opportunity for many organisations to capitalise on these things that probably won't be repeated, or hopefully won't be repeated in the near future. So with that, I'm just going to hand over to Steve. Steve will take you through the rest of the deck, and then we'll keep moving forward. So just bear with you 1 second. Just let me know when you've got the handover there, Steve.
Yeah, that looks good to me, Simon. Cool.
Right.
Okay, so to continue on from the points that Simon touched on, we need to consider what companies sort of consider to be a difficult process to enable a remote site, a branch site, whether that's sending out a router to upgrade the site or to build a site from scratch. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. We need to consider the age that we're in, well, the situation we're in at the moment as well. We don't have the luxury for companies that are spread across a country the size of Australia, for example, the freedom of sending their network engineers out to these remote sites to stand them up. But even the ones that do have employees that are interstate, to be able to send them out on site to assist with installation of the device. They might have been burnt in the past by sending a device a couple of states across with a slightly misconfigured, perhaps like point-to-point link that interfaces with the telco, maybe a little bit bad BGP configuration, the AS number or something to that effect is incorrect. But that stops you from getting on remotely and effectively commissioning the site. And you might work with the on-site support, who might not be a network engineer or whatever it might need to be, that has that level of intelligence with networking to correct the site. So these are some of the issues that customers are running up against, and they've decided to put their SD-WAN projects on hold. So let's have a look at SD-WAN Orchestrator. This is a cloud-based service, and it allows you to configure all of your branch appliances. You can template out a configuration, so it only needs to come down to changing the amount of IPs, AS numbers, something to that effect. But then again, what happens when you send the device out on site? How do you ensure that it's got the correct configuration? And this is where we move into the zero-touch deployment that Simon has touched on. So the zero-touch deployment allows us to send a device to whatever location. It will automatically provision its own configuration, and that is based on the serial number. So we need to note down the serial number of the device that we've shipped out on site. When that device is plugged in, the management port just needs to have internet access. It will dial back to the cloud service, and from there pull down its configuration. And you might say, what if it's a brand new site and it doesn't have any IP connectivity yet? Well, the onboard 4G will also allow you to do that. The 4G service, if the management port is not live, will dial back to the service for you. So it's a really handy way of getting around those hurdles of standing up a remote site. Now, the new normal, which Simon has touched on, we've seen a lot of customers, some, I guess, have projects in flight to remove their workloads from on-prem. Like a lot of customers are doing that. They are moving into cloud-based services, SaaS services as well, trying to reduce their data center footprint. So as we can see here, there is many different changes that customers have made to accommodate for the BCP situation that we're in. I guess all of that is not only to reduce their footprint, but also to produce a better experience for the end user. We're all now effectively out on the internet working. No one's at a branch site, and no one's going back to the data centers for their workloads. So as we can see here, there are many different types. We've got Citrix Cloud Direct, which addresses many services there for the SaaS offerings, Office 365, Azure Virtual WAN, but also integration to public clouds. So let's jump into each of these situations and show how Citrix can address these. So Citrix Cloud Direct is a brand new service that we've put forward. And what this does is gives you a direct connection from your branch site to all of these public cloud services that you see up here. So Salesforce, Workday, lots and lots of SaaS-based apps. And how that works is using the intelligence that we have from Citrix SD-WAN. We'll get into that just for a moment. So the way we measure our traffic is by measuring the loss due to congestion and throughput of these connections across each one of these cable and DSL links that you see on the screen. And what's interesting is we don't use probes. We monitor each real packet as it goes across the network. So we're getting real metrics there. We're not using GET requests, we're not using ICMP. And what that allows us to do is to detect when a link has not actually gone down, but when it's experiencing a brownout, so a degradation in service. And we can still send traffic across a link that has that. If it's running an application that is not so sensitive to time, for example, or it's not less sensitive to latency, to jitter. So from that, we can aggregate these two links, and with packet-based load balancing, we can still continue to use both without one actually having to be down for traffic to fail across. So what's interesting about this is the sort of smarts that we can provide from a branch site to the data center when you've got two SD-WAN appliances on either end. But what we're looking at here is a direct connection to a cloud service provided by Citrix. And this exists at all of the, 150 internet exchange locations around the world. And it's a front door giving you that intelligence for the first time to be able to give you that quality control across the internet, the public landscape, and where many issues occur. And from that front door, the Cloud Direct network, we have a backplane that extends out to all of these public services. So you're leveraging our throughput and connections to these data centers where Workday, Salesforce, for example, exist, but get that great experience on that first leg of the journey. Now, Office 365, in one way or another, customers are migrating to Office 365. So if we take something like Teams, for example, or maybe like more of a SharePoint or Outlook Exchange application that's been shifted to the cloud, that's going to be performing great for a customer that's now out on the internet because you're going to be closer to these Microsoft points of presence. But when you come back to the data center, what's going to happen? Back to the branch. You're going to be hairpinning your traffic from your branch location to the data center and out to the internet, because there's technically no way to break out directly from the branch without SD-WAN at this point in time. So what we're doing here is to align with Microsoft's connectivity principles. We're the first vendor to have been able to do that. And these are having the ability to actually be able to identify and differentiate Office 365 traffic from anything else. Out of the box, we identify 4,500 different applications. So we can see from the first packet going through the device with deep packet inspection that this traffic actually is Office 365. And from there, we can use our DNS service. And another point of the connectivity principles is that you need to have a local DNS service. So that's included with Citrix SD-WAN. And we can direct you to the best performing point of presence for the Microsoft workload. And what this does is it gives you the exact same experience that you had out at your home, being close to these points of presence without having to go back through your data center and have all of that data inspected. And similarly with the Cloud Direct service, with the metrics that we can obtain across these two different ISP links, we can determine what is the better performing link to get you to these workloads. It doesn't necessarily mean that the closest is the best. So we can look at things like latency, as I mentioned before, jitter and congestion. So what might be good for something like Word or Excel or a collaborative document might not also be good for something like Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is obviously going to be latency sensitive. It can't handle a lot of jitter. So we would use a link for that particular type of traffic, as opposed to something that could, have higher latency. Doesn't matter about the jitter, just as long as you can get that download speed working, we would use that link. So, excuse me. So what's interesting as well is our ability to see within ICA and HDX traffic. Where another vendor might see Citrix traffic as an IP and a port, we can actually see within these sessions, categorizing them as real-time interactive bulk and background. So you can set up your own quality of service policies to ensure that within that session, other users might not be pulling down too much YouTube traffic, which might be encroaching on your team's experience. So we can divide that bandwidth up within those sessions accordingly. And you might ask, well, what does that mean if the workload has to be performed on the on-prem data center under my Citrix infrastructure? Well, we also have the ability to let you process that intense media traffic on the local machine, so something like Teams or YouTube, anything that really is going to crunch a lot of your backend infrastructure. We can do that locally on the machine and allow you to break out, as we mentioned with the Office 365 cases as before. What we've also noticed is a big shift of applications and storage to the cloud. As I said, again, like a lot of companies were trying to reduce their data center footprint. But what they're doing here is maybe been a little bit more reactive under the current situations, but trying to get that out to the cloud so it's a little bit closer to people to access. What's great about our SD-WAN solution is that it allows you to directly integrate with Azure vWAN. So for Azure vWAN, there's only a couple of requirements that you need to get this set up. It's quite easy. So you've got your tenant ID, client ID, the secure key, and subscriber ID, and that will effectively allow you to spin up your Azure VNets to a hub to access your Azure VNets, and that will appear as a remote site for all of these branch sites. So rather than having to go back through your MPLS or internet, back to the data center, out to the internet, or even through a direct connect if you're lucky enough to have one of those, from the branch site, you can directly spit out from the branch out to across the internet to these secure locations. And this is all secured by IPsec tunnels. Now, these are the 210 appliances that we're looking at here. What we can do here is to augment the WAN connectivity as your business needs grow. So we can see that this can support up to 8 different WAN links, which is fascinating because some sites might come up with an MPLS link, and NBN might become available, which is Australia's latest network, the National Broadband Network. We can connect into those two devices, but then as 4G grows into those locations, we can then supplement those connections with 4G. And then at some point in time, we can kill off the MPLS, we can supplement it with additional NBN connections. So as the business grows, you've always got that flexibility to increase that performance as you're going forward. We also have the ability with our licensing to increase the throughput of the appliance. So you're not exactly stuck with maybe 100 meg appliance that you've installed on site. So as these links grow, you can increase that to a 200 meg or whatever your needs case might be. Also noted here, the 5G, we're ready for 5G, so we have field upgradable modems in these appliances. So when that does come to your area, we can quickly swap those over. The last point there, we've also released the 110 4G LTE and Wi-Fi model to the market. So what this is effectively an office in a box. It gives you everything that you need. So with the Wi-Fi connectivity, it negates the need of the switch. So you can have all of your office workers connected to this. And if you're lucky enough, you could even deploy this at your home for a secure connection into your company's WAN. Now, on the point of the 4G connectivity, I didn't mention that we do this on board as well. We have the ability to connect in 4G dongles. But what's fantastic is it's one less thing that you need to worry about managing, or one less thing that could fall out of the device and break the site's connection. So with this being on board, we have the ability to use it as a standby meter link or as an active link. So we can have it, say we put 300, let's say it's a 10 gig plan, and we put 2500 megabits per second, well, megabits through the device at this point. We can be alerted at that 25% mark. We can have it at 50 and 75, 80 to 100. So we don't go over that limit. And that is to avoid bill shock. Similarly, we can have this device or this interface sitting as a device of last resort. So when your MPLS link dies, NBN dies, then that 4G can fire up. So we've spoken a lot about the branch sites and how easy it is to integrate into those networks. But what could you do at the head end? There's always going to be some reservation of putting a device onto the network at the head end. It normally needs to go through a lot of approvals, networks, architects, security, just to get this thing on the device, onto the network. And while it can act as a head end device, so it can do your BGP and OSPF routing, it's also very comfortable sitting on the network to be directed to with policy-based routing. And it's the easiest way to get these devices onto the network. So as a site comes about, we can start directing that site's IP range up to the SD-WAN head end device, and then that traffic will be then sent across to the branch site. And what this allows you to do is to run with a staged approach, which some other vendors don't let you do. It has to be all or nothing with SD-WAN. But we allow you to have the SD-WAN still be able to communicate with sites that aren't running SD-WAN, so you can add them as time goes on. So in summary, as you've seen, the application performance that we provide to these services will be exactly the same, if not better than what you have when you're directly connected to these point of presences. To get these out onto the network, with a zero-touch deployment, we've made it incredibly easy. Anybody can set these out, stand them up, power them on, cable them in to get the devices on the network. And with the hybrid multi-cloud capabilities that we have, as with anything Citrix, we're not bound by any vendor or technology. We'll allow you to set these devices physically. We can do them virtually, so you can put them to any hybrid or any public cloud where your workload might be standing. And with that, I'll pass back to May so we can have a couple of minutes for some questions and answers.
Hi, Steve. It's actually, I'm going to just say a couple of things, if you don't mind. Do you mind just flicking back to the previous screen?
Can you see that?
Just to elaborate a little bit, thanks, mate. Just to elaborate a little bit more on these elements. This slide really is about demonstrating, how we at Citrix through our SD-WAN platform are looking to meet the objectives of and the expectations of the employees as they return back to the office. I touched a lot on performance, service availability being a couple of the key elements that they're going to want to capitalise on coming back into the branch, given their experiences working from home. Obviously, through that process, work with businesses to optimise their costs, and very much in particular enhancing that security layer so that the employees still work like they used to work without any of the security trade-offs anymore, and making sure the business can secure the platform without impacting on the way in which the users work in the branch office, and really getting so it's capitalising on the hybrid multi-cloud environment. So as I said earlier, touching on organisations that move a lot of workloads to the cloud to allow for better remote working, rather than shift all that sort of stuff back and then having to try to retrofit it back in. Use this platform to capitalise on the new cloud adoption. We got a bit of a head of steam up there, so we did miss one of our polls. So we're just going to run the last two polls now. So May, if you wouldn't mind just getting the third one going. We'll just wait a minute or two to get the responses for that one. Simon's quarterly weather update, still raining, still grey, not that cold, but that's Melbourne for you. Almost done. Got some good responses here. All right, so we've got the responses. Fantastic. What I was probably expecting to see, performance and optimization was very much top of the list. As we try to do more with less in a new world, and bring in different types of connectivity, that sort of thing, to I suppose drive a better user experience, I'd definitely expect to see performance and optimization as a number one primary consideration for SD-WAN. Cost reduction came in second. Again, getting back to my point around having to do more with less, or potentially more with a lot less. Cost reduction is not surprising to see is pretty high up on the agenda. Cloud transformation, network backup resiliency, and lower administrative overhead had fairly reasonable responses as well. And just goes to show how the flexibility of SD-WAN can drive a lot of unique and different use cases and I suppose objectives, right? And it pays to work work with the likes of Citrix to determine exactly how SD-WAN would fit into your organisation and how you can meet those objectives. I'm just going to run the last one now, if we can, please, May. If you were to implement SD-WAN, what would be your preferred implementation and operating model? I'll give another weather update right now, but it's pretty much more of the same.
Yeah, yes. Apologies, everyone. I forgot to scatter these throughout the presentation.
It's all good. We should have probably put a poll in that said, throughout the entirety of this webinar, how many times did your kids bust in on you in your office?
For me, it's a dog.
I got both challenges, so yeah. But thankfully, that has not happened. All right, a couple of more seconds to go. Fantastic. All right. Wow, this one was very it's very even. I was probably expecting to see maybe one or two standouts here, but it's a pretty even mark across the field. Ranging from fully delivered and provided as a managed service to telco provider, right through to internal installation and ongoing management. I suppose the reasoning behind this poll was really all about sort of understanding where some of the use cases might fit for particular organisations, right? So, internal installation, ongoing management, generally more so for organisations that have larger IT teams and have the capacity and resources to do it. But, again, making them or getting them to do more with less as well. And then, there's always been a debate in the SD-WAN world around, the role telcos and system integrators would play in the SD-WAN world, and there were some wild accusations about certain industries killing off other industries way back when SD-WAN first became a thing. But it's good to see that both telco and system integrators are well respected in the poll here. So thank you very much, guys, for answering that poll. What I'm going to do now is we're going to hand over to one of our esteemed colleagues in Aaron, and he will work through the Q&A section. Then we will wrap up. And I've just stolen some of May's thunder because she told me that she was going to introduce Aaron. I've just done that, so I apologise, May.
No worries at all. Yes, so let's have Aaron moderate the Q&A. Thanks.
Thanks for the introduction, guys. Good job. So we've got some good questions here, and keep them coming in because we'll get to them, I think, with the time that we have left, which is good. So the first question that we've got here is, what is the minimum and ideal bandwidth required for smooth operation? And Steve, I think we'll go to you. It's a bit of an open-ended question, so feel free to put some boundaries around it if you want to.
Yeah, look, this is the thing with our SD-WAN solution and the way we monitor traffic. There's no, I guess, maximum or minimum bandwidth that we can or can't use. But what we do with our solution as well is dual-ended quality of service. So what we're doing there is looking at the quality of service policy that's been put forward. Let's say that real-time needs to be Skype, for example. Bulk will have as YouTube. But rather than categorize that and spit that out onto the network based on what we want to send, we're actually looking at the remote destination. That could be the head end, that could be another branch with dynamic virtual paths. But we're looking at what the congestion and throughput is actually happening at that branch site. So if we know that another site is wanting to send Skype traffic across here, and another site's wanting to send Skype traffic across here, but this guy down here also wants to send YouTube traffic, well, obviously the two Skype calls that need to get through first will go through. And this one will be left behind and sent through when it's available. So it's really interesting how we can use those low minimum bandwidth requirements. But as I said during the call, it's comes down to the application and the quality of links, what we can do with it.
Thanks, Steve. We'll fire this one at you, Simon. Having SD-WAN alone, can QoS also be achieved?
Good question. Thank you. Quality of service, I suppose, in an SD-WAN world takes on multiple facets, right? And what I mean by that is because you've got traditional underlying network carriage. In a lot of instances, it has its own quality of service platforms built into it, as well as an overarching quality of service policy that extends into the SD-WAN overlay. One of the key advantages of the Citrix SD-WAN platform is that it's able to manage both and manage both in a really effective manner. So, for example, one of the good examples I like to use is around hosted telephony, where you might have a WAN service provider who provides an MPLS carriage service circuit to you, and then hosts your business telephony platform. The Citrix SD-WAN device can identify that traffic, right, and realizes that it needs to be sent to the hosted telephony platform. So instead of feeding that into the SD-WAN overlay, it will feed that into what we call the underlay network or the direct MPLS carriage. It will mimic, or sorry, I shouldn't say mimic, but it will butt right up against the specific QoS parameters of the MPLS circuit. So if you're running 3 classes of QoS, 4, 6, we can actually scale right up to 15, but I don't know how many telcos are deploying 15 classes of service on MPLS, but generally speaking, 6 is the most common, and so the platform will send that that traffic within the applicable queue, so that it hits the right queue on the MPLS network, and then the call makes its way either to the central call platform or either to the remote branch location. So it's really also about maximising MPLS value for you as well. In terms of QoS on the overlay, the platform takes or bundles the connections together and utilizes a range of policies to determine quality of service, and you can then overlay your own levels of class and queue onto the overlay network. You can use the policy system to drive better performance, and then use the smarts within SD-WAN to, I suppose, route around what we call network brownouts, right, where there's perhaps significant congestion on one link, and then send it across another send across another that's got more capacity in it, and then apply the relevant quas to that overlay network as well.
Awesome. All right, we've got a few more to get through, so I'll try and go through a couple in quick succession. So Steve, we'll go to you for this one. I'm going to paraphrase this question a little bit, but how is security handled in an SD-WAN deployment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have a ICSA and NSS Labs certified firewall on board all of our appliances. So with our security policies, we allow you to define it by application, and that's purely for ease. As I mentioned during the call, we have 4,500 applications that can be detected that are running through the appliance, so you can set your policies based on that. So you can allow maybe Spotify to break out to the internet, you can block YouTube or Facebook, things to that effect. But you can also do it based on IP and port, as you would with a traditional firewall. And we also give you the ability to add your own URLs and create your own custom applications, which might suit your company. So all of the firewall functionality is available there.
Yeah, great. We might just stay with you for the minute, Steve, because there's a follow-on question, I guess, from what you just answered. Can you just explain local internet breakout in a little bit more detail? And is it possible to do this through like a segmentation or an application classification list, or are they predefined?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of answered that a little bit with that question just before. But with internet breakout, it's something that we can utilize to avoid hairpinning. And when we say hairpinning, we mean going back from a branch site to the data center out to the internet link. So we'll go across the MPLS and out to the internet. When we aggregate typically an MPLS link and an internet link, with the internet link obviously goes out to the internet, we can specify a portion of the traffic that we want to actually go out via that link. And yes, we can lock it down based on application. As I said before, it doesn't need to be an application like a web application or something like a browser or something to that effect. We can be even more granular. So you can go down to known SaaS apps like Salesforce or Workday, things like that, but even things that we use every day like Spotify.
Yeah, great. One quick one for you, Simon. In what scenarios is it best to use 4G as a primary link?
That's a good question. I think it really touches on one of the points that Steve made earlier around, our potential to manage, cost overrun 4G and that sort of thing. In terms of, when it's best to utilize 4G only, it realistically, I suppose and what we're seeing, I suppose, from a lot of customers is that, dedicated 4G access really is being considered where things such as traditional traditional telco networks can't, fixed line networks can't reach, or the likes of NBN for that matter. But there's also flexible use case operation. Right? What I mean by that is things that turn over rapidly, or move around quite a lot. It's another particular use case where you might want to consider 4G only. One of the specifics I talked about with an organisation not so long ago was around construction work, and more so construction work around large-scale infrastructure projects like rail lines and freeways, for example. The use case in those environments is generally, a freeway that's being built will be done in stages, and what they tend to do is, put down an operations hub or location, and they do the first part of the freeway build, and they lift, bring everything over to do the next stage, so on and so forth. So something that moves very quickly around is definitely a good use case where you might want to use only 4G, and then obviously fixed line reach is another.
Yeah, we've seen some great results with that for some customers out in the outback, where they previously used satellite links, but now they've used the onboard 4G and a couple of extra dongles to aggregate those 3 4G links, and they're seeing some great results.
Great.
Great, guys. 2 more questions here before I think we're done. I might go to you with this one, Steve, but Simon, if you've got any color you'd like to add, please jump in. We recently implemented Citrix Cloud environment, can't go wrong with that. We only going to publish apps, no VDIs, and our infrastructure is being managed from Azure. Please let me know, where does Citrix SD-WAN fit in my environment? They are also using NetScaler ADC.
Fantastic, end-to-end. So Citrix Cloud is what you're using for your management plane there for your virtual apps and VDI workloads. But those workloads will be sitting in Azure, as you pointed out. So what you've got there, when you're accessing those workloads, that'll be a direct connection from your branch to that Azure site. So you can either integrate that via the vWAN capabilities that we have with the branch. Otherwise, you can deploy a SD-WAN VPX, which is our virtual offering, within Azure. That's available within the marketplace to bridge that connection and give you that quality of service from every branch site direct without having to hairpin back through your data center.
Yeah, it's a great example of end-to-end implementation. I will reference back to actually the quality of service question that came back up, and what SD-WAN can help you achieve in this instance is to increase the quality of experience for those working on the Citrix virtual app and desktop environments, in that it can obviously supply greater detailed analytics into application performance. Also within session, allow you to capitalize on direct internet breakout and a few other capabilities as well, to create an overall better experience from a quality of service perspective. And even within that channel, utilize Quaz on the platform to make sure things like, let's just say, Microsoft Teams, for example, in the VDI session is optimized and pushed forward over and above anything else in the session, so that you can get a better voice and video experience too. So yeah, a bit more on the Quaz element just there.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of our session. I did just see a couple more questions pop in, guys, but I'll have the team respond to them as part of the next steps and follow-up items to the webinar. With that, I'll hand back to May and team to close us out.
Sure. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Simon and Steve, for delivering today's live webinar. And obviously, I want to thank everybody for attending today's session. As a reminder, you will see a survey for your completion once you leave today's webinar, and we would appreciate if you could fill that out and provide us with your feedback. And if you do have any suggestions for future webinar topics which you would like to see us deliver, please do let us know via this feedback form. On behalf of Citrix, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.